Question, you're more welcome to ask. So wait,
He doesn't buy them. Oh, he's doing it. Yeah, this is for balance. Like area and see how tall that is.
okay, this question I didn't go over, but we can go over that later. But this FTC problem. So FTC problem basically, if I ever ask you f of a -6, so if I say f of -6, the thing is they give you a initial condition. So this is a question mark, but they say f of -2 is equal to 7. Now you can, I will show you two different ways to approach it. One is just write down because this is f prime of x. So the integration of f prime of x dx. Now I can choose anywhere I want to because the orientation doesn't really matter long as you fix it. So I'm gonna choose the way that make less sense, but hopefully it will make more sense later. So if I start with a -2 because that's the initial condition I know, and this is -6, I always write down f of -6 is minus f of -2. And since between here, this one is here. So, but understand that the area, this is also equal to negative in terms of -6 to -2 of f prime of x dx is equal to this part doesn't change. Does that make sense? Because I only change the other part. And this one is a negative, I think it's -4, is equal to f to the -6, which is the unknown, and the -7. So if you're adding 7 on both sides, so that's going to be f of -6 is equal to 3. Now, Ethan did point out, says, hey, is it possible I just do it this way? It's -6 to -2, and that way I don't have to bother to change it. Yep. It's actually work out even better because that's going to be f of -2 minus f of -6. Does that make sense? And now you see that f of -2 is 7, and this one just going to be 4 minus f of the -6. And that would give you a -3 equal to negative f of -6, and 3 is equal to f of -6. And this would result you exact same situation as before. So the orientation doesn't matter what if I write out the other side exactly same orientation here. As long as the area under the curve that you figure out according, which if it's a negative sign in the front or without negative sign in front, doesn't matter. So Ethan says, I prefer this way. Understandable. I will do it that way too. When I explained it the first time was the other way, is this way. I feel like it's more complex because you have to switch this to negative of that. Does that make sense? Okay, so f of 5, well, now obviously you know, because the -2 to 5 of f of x dx, again, write out f of 5 minus f of -2. And we know that's 7, so it'll be 7 plus integration -2 to 5 of f prime x dx is equal to f of 5. Now that's how much things I'll write out. Ian, are you paying attention? So that's going to be integration from -2 to 5. So -2 is right here, to 5 is right here. So this is -2 pi, and this is 3, because that's triangle is 3 times 2 times half. So it will be -2 pi, and then plus 3. And so it'll be 10 minus 2 pi. Is that okay? So I answered this question. Done. Any question about this? No? Okay. For us, which interval is f increasing? Now, realize that f is increasing. That means f f prime f of x is increasing. That means f prime of x is greater than 0. Would you say? So in this case, you're just looking for f prime and look above x-axis. Because this is 0, anything above here is going to be like this. So you're going to assess from -6 to -2 and from 2 to 5. And you can say f prime of x is above x-axis. Or f prime of x is greater than 0. That's good enough for justification. Is that okay? Loss. Sure.
So is the justification zero?
I think either way is acceptable. I probably prefer mathematical way because that's the first derivative. No, that's the first derivative. That's definition of first derivative, which is it's increasing. Any questions here? It's good to ask question now. Yes, Astrid? Okay. So absolute minimum value between -6 to 5. So that means anytime you have value or furthest distance or a maximum value, absolute maximum value, they all have required the justification, just a chart. So in this case, obviously I'm gonna have -x and 5, which is -x. Do I have -x? I feel like I have -6. -6 is gonna be 3, right? Do we have a f of 5? What is it? Is what? 10 minus 2 pi. Okay, so obviously I need to worry about the other two value. So if it's a minimum, it's from negative to positive. So I will try 2 first. Why 2? Because it went from negative to positive, right? So what's integration from -6 to 2? Wait, hold on a second. From -2, you're right. If from -2 to what? To 2. So that is gonna be and it's gonna be 7, right? 7 plus that, right?
Initial condition.
The initial condition doesn't matter. Does that make sense?
Alan, just think about it this way. Like he did the first question, write it up.
Yeah.
Like the 7
Could you
comes
explain
from
that one more
that.
time?
Yeah, that's okay. I'll write it out just in case. So think about this, that at 2 is gonna be integration from -2 to 2 of f prime of x is equal to f of 2 minus f of what? -2, right? And we were trying to figure out what f of 2 is. So this one would be it's just 7 plus integration from -2 to 2 f prime of x. Is that okay? I moved the negative f of -2 to the other side because we're trying to find out f of 2 is. Because that's when you go in from negative to positive, that has a possible minimum value. Is that okay? So then it'll be 7 plus -2 pi, I think. It'll be 7 minus 2 pi. So 7 minus 2 pi here. So which one is the minimum value? is 7 minus 2 pi is roughly 7 minus 6. That's 1. That's below 3. 10 minus 2 pi is 10 minus 6 is 4. Right? Now, if you want to work out what happened at -2, what happened at -2? -2 is 7, right? -2 is -7 because this already told you is 7. So the minimum value is going to be this one. Would you say? No?
Yeah,
Why you shake your head?
stairs.
Yes, Catherine.
Do you have to write all that information in that table, or can we just do on the side?
You can do it on the side, but I would write down 7 minus 2 pi. I believe the scoring guideline, I don't remember what year is this, but if I would remember, it's probably 2017 FRQ. Let me see if I'm right. Do you see that?
When they're asking things and they give you a value, they're always going to give you a given, and you're always going to use that given in yours. You can't use anything else.
Do you see that? This is the scoring guideline.
Use initial condition after 6.
Is this hard? Not really, yeah. And then I'll show you the last part. F double prime of -5. Well, -5 is roughly right here, right? And so F double prime of 5, that's equal to rise over run. So it's gonna be negative what? I hear -1/4. I'm not sure it's -1/4.
I'm not sure.
-1/2. Because slope is gonna go down 2 and right 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's -1/2. F double prime at 3 is what?
Doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist. Because
Non-different.
it's limits as x approach 3 from the left of f double prime of x is equal to 2, and limit x approach to 3 for the positive of f double prime of x is -1. So therefore it does not exist because those two are not the same thing. It's two different slope with changing slope.
Would we have to justify it like that, or can we just go like?
I actually don't know, but this is the way I would justify it. So let's check out how do they justify it.
Right, but you have to explain.
How would I justify here? The yeah, they actually use definition of alternative derivative. They say it does not exist. Does that make sense? Yes. They will never ask you relative because they will want you to compare with the endpoint versus relative. So they will always ask you absolute. Even they will ask you minimum value, that means absolute value. Yes.
For D, so when we have to justify it, can we just say that it's not differentiable at that point, or would we have to use that? We have to use the definition of derivative.
I personally, I will use my answer long as your address from the left is 2, from the right is -1. That should be enough. If you provide evidence, you cannot say just data is not differentiable. If you provide evidence that slope on the left is -2, and slope on the right is -1, good enough. But again, I will be honest with you. I am not ever a grader, and I don't even want to grade your papers. I'll never go grade them. But to be worse to worse, I always prepare for the most prepared. So do you have to use definition of derivative? I will say no if you ask me. because I think it's not necessary. If I can look at the slope is negative 2 on 2 on the positive side and negative 1 on the other side, I should be good enough. Is that okay? Now let's look at this question. Yep.
I don't understand the answer for C.
C is 7 minus 2 pi. Because you compare with 3, 10 minus 2 pi, and 7 minus 2 pi, what is the lowest value? But think about pi is 3, so it'd be 7 minus 6. 10 minus 6, 3. Which value has the lowest value? But the problem is you have to evaluate f of 2. If you don't evaluate f of 2, then that's not going to win. Now, all this on video is Makeda. If you missed for this part, I'll measure it on video. For this part, I'm going to try, I'll read it kind of. If you guys should have done this already. But this is FTC because this is like the first few worksheet. All these questions are very similar. So I'm gonna start with the G of 3. G of 3 is gonna be integration of G prime of X. I'm gonna do 0 to 3 because what Ethan say was good idea. Is equal to G of 3 minus G of 0. Now, I will write out like this, fundamental calculus. This way, I would never get a wrong answer. I always get a 1 point. And between 0 to 3, I believe is pi plus 3 over 2, right? Is equal to G of 3 and the minus 5. Ian, are you following me? Because you are just playing with your phone and you're not. This is the best golden ticket for you to pass the exam. If you don't pay attention now, sometimes you lock in, you're very, very sharp. But sometimes you're on your phone reading manga, then I don't know if you're reading manga or not. Okay, then move your seat to the forward so that way we can see. So you can move the 5 to the other side. So it'll be 5 plus this, or be pi plus 6.5. And that's equal to G of 3. Does that make sense? Very, very easy. I feel like this is the easiest point to earn. You just write out a statement and just plug in out a value that you think you have. It's very intuitive. It's not very difficult. And G of negative 2, again, is going to be, if I say negative 2 to 0, if that's better for you, that's fine. I honestly don't really care. So that's going to be G of 0 minus G of negative 2. So from negative 2 to 0, I believe it's 2 pi, because that's 2 quarter circle with a radius of 2, is equal to G of 0 is 5 and minus G of negative 2. So then G of negative 2 is equal to what? 5 minus 2 pi. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
I think it's 5 minus. I think it's 5 minus pi, not 2 pi.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Did I calculate wrong? So this is a
I think it's
pi r squared divided by 2.
yeah, and 4.
So that's
Maybe divided by 4.
pi.
It's divided by 4, no?
It's 5 by 4.
Oh, yeah, all right, you're right. Divided by, my fault. I'm sorry. It's negative 2 to 0, so this part, I was reading the whole thing, so that's going to be 5 minus pi. Thank you.
Negative 5 plus pi.
Do you always subtract that
This part is not counted.
I can explain it. Give me a second though. We're gonna do this.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Thank you, Maya.
But do you always subtract like the initial placement?
No, I always write down fundamental theorem in calculus.
So it's 5 minus.
G upper bound minus G lower bound. I don't have to worry about what's initial condition. Initial condition, just give it a value, I plug in, that's it. I don't have to worry about anything else. I swear to you, every single year there's a question like this. And I swear to you, like I have student don't know how to add and subtract, they can get this question right. Long as you understand what is going on. And I do apologize. I was thinking my brain was negative 2 to 2. But it's actually negative 2 to 0. So it's 5 minus pi. Thank you.
Oh, I ordered it. I understand.
Does that make sense or no? Yen, move your seat forward so you can pay attention.
Yeah.
Huh? What? What?
I don't think so.
Okay, so point inflection of G, that means G double prime of X changing sign. But G double prime is equal to the slope, I'm just writing it down, of F prime of X, right? Because slope means prime, right? Slope of a changing sign, right? So therefore it's happened here, X equal to 0, X equal to 3. Is that okay? Because
Wouldn't it be at x equal to 2 as well?
oh, 2, yes. X equal to 2, thank you. X equal to 2, Ethan's on top of thing, good job. So what do? I can say X equal to 0, G double prime of X change from greater than 0 to G double prime of X less than 0. At X equal to 2, G double prime of X changing from less than 0 to G double prime of X greater than 0. At X equal to 3, G double prime of X is changing from greater than 0 to G double prime of X less than 0. So I can list all that down to say that's possible justification. I think a little bit more, it doesn't really matter. I'm not very good with English. So I'm just gonna write down all the math notation I can think of changing from positive, negative, positive. That's it. Now for the last one, the function h of x is defined by h of x, g of x equal to negative 1/2 x squared. Find the x coordinate, h coordinate. It means h of x is equal to 0 if you say critical points. So critical point means h prime of x equal to 0. If I write that down, I probably get some point. H prime of x equal to g prime of x minus x. Is that okay? I take a derivative. Because I want trying to find h prime of x equal to 0 because they say critical point, right? Am I going too fast?
A little bit.
They say find x coordinate of each critical point. So do I just find out critical point means h prime of x equal to 0? But I need to take a derivative. So it'll be g double prime of x minus x. That means equal to 0 equal to g double prime of x equal to x. No, sorry, minus x. And then g prime of x is equal to x. That means the only thing happen is 3. That's your critical point. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the 2 cancel out 1/2.
X coordinate h equal to 3.
Prime of x. Is that equal to g double prime? What is that?
I write down g prime of x.
Alright, that looks like a double.
No, that's just 1 prime.
Do we plug in each value like x equals 0, x equals 5?
When is g prime of x equal to x?
Where's g prime?
Well, wait.
Oh,
I made the
3,
jump
3.
from equal to 0.
3, 3.
3, 3. That's one of them.
Then 0.
0.
What?
Prime of x times x.
Oh,
Wouldn't 0, 2 count?
0, 2 is not counting because g of x is 2, but x is 0.
Oh, right.
so that's why it's 3. Okay, so. If the three is the
Two, two, then
Exactly. No, it's not. It's actually like even if it's 2 zeros.
Do you guys remember what year?
Wait, wouldn't Boots 2?
Yeah.
Boots 2?
Yeah, that's the one I'm debating about.
Because that is where the high equals
Now it's like this point, you mean?
Yeah.
I think yeah. Can anybody find a scoring guideline for this question? Do anybody know which year is this?
Right, what if that be?
But this one's for sure. This one 3 is for sure because that 3 is equal to 3.
Yeah, 3, 3. It's when the space below the line equals the x. In other words, when an imaginary line is at a perfect. In other words, the point where it crosses an imaginary line with the slope of 1 so often.
it's still changing its it turned it changed it negative one. That's how well, no, the slope, the sec, sorry, that fell.
Because if you're looking at the green, you want to look at your outputs are going to be. You're looking for.
Wait, okay, so what is there negative 2, 2? Oh,
I got it.
still positive.
What year is it? 2010? I feel like there's one more. Yeah, it's square root 2. No, he's right. I feel like there's one more, yeah. Very good.
It's a square root of 2 and 3.
Yeah. So technically that you can have like y equal to x is like this, right? So that this point, when they equal to each other, there's another one here. And this one's gonna be square root 2.
Because the circle is all because again. What is pi over 4? Because
Think about unit circle, right? Think about unit circle at pi over 4, that's where the x is. So that would be square root 2 over 2. But the problem is unit circle is 1. So what happened is double, then it's going to be square root 2. Square root 2 over 2 times 2 is going to be 2. So that's because this is the part that's kind of hard. This is.
It's like 1.4.
You want to then doesn't matter.
By 2 and you
Oh, squared. Oh.
Now here's the thing. A square root 2 is a maximum or minimum. Okay, a square root 2 is a maximum or minimum. A square root 2 is a maximum minimum.
It's not the circle. It's where the line. It's where the purple line intersects the heaven circle. The thing is, wait, no. It's that thing.
How do you know that's square root of 2?
You know how unit circle is like this, right? This is a unit circle like this. And at pi over 4, a unit circle is square root 2 over 2 and then square root 2 over 2, right? That's a unit circle. That's 1 unit. But what happened is this is twice as that. So this one must be times 2, so therefore it's square root 2. So this is square root 2 here. Now, if you look at here, like this line, this point is crossing this. Think about this as an x-axis. It went from positive to negative. So therefore, square root 2 is a maximum. And 3 is neither. 3 is neither because never cross that y equal to x. Just think about that become a x-axis.
So it's square root of 2.
I feel like I missed like a
Well, three is
How do you know it's
I think they were talking, but we weren't.
Because this went from positive to negative,
Oh.
and this one is negative to negative. But it's not usually it's compared to x-axis, right? Usually it's compared, but this time it's an x. So this one's really hard to earn. I think it will be like a super level 5 to get it. I'm talking about yeah, Aiden. Aiden's like, yeah, me.
That's
So-
the point question.
But yeah, that would be a very hard question. But Yin sees square root 2. That's why I said Yin is always being the
Would the square root of 2 be a no?
square root 2 is actually maximum.
Yeah, that's the maximum because everything after it is beneath the line and would be negative.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
the 3
That's one of those
would be
questions.
a minimum. Would it be a minimum? Would the 3 be a minimum or would it be a
Neither. Neither.
Right, because it doesn't.
Yeah, it went to
It
negative
doesn't
to
do
negative,
anything
right?
interesting to do it. It doesn't do anything. It would have to cross over the minimum.
We're almost done.
All right, so we're gonna get to there. So you can write it out. Now this one, I will say, if you write down h prime x, they'll give you a point. You identify square root 2 and 3, they'll give you a point. If you identify square root 3, you identify square root 2 is a maximum, they will give you another point. And you've identified 3 is a neither, they will give you another point. So it's really hard to earn the last two. I think the first two is also kind of hard to earn, but it's easy to earn the h prime x equal to 0. So just by writing this part down, that's going to give you a point as well. Now your question's not going to be as hard as this one. This one's probably the one of the harder question I've seen. It's not an easier question I've seen. It's going to be a harder question I've seen. Yes. No. That's only if the radius 1. This is radius 2.
Because it's got 2 bytes. So since you have to multiply everything in by 2, it'd be 2 root 2 over 2, and the two cancel each other, giving you just root 2. Because it's not a set of 1, it's actually a distance of 2.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Okay, so particle moving left. So that's this one. If I have the time to go over, this one is basically less than 0. So I'm gonna figure out what's cosine of pi over 6 of t is equal to 0 first. We finished both of them.
Oh, I thought you meant like these. Like this.
That's actually easier than this. Okay, cosine. So I'm gonna go over this related question, this kinematic question, but this one's no calculator. The one you're gonna have is with calculator, but there's still the idea that you kind of need to know. Basically, you want to figure out when the cosine equal to 0 first. When does cosine equal to 0?
Well, cosine equals 0 when wouldn't it equal 0 at 1/2 pi because it's x,
Good.
and negative and 3
Then here's t is equal to 3, right? Is that okay?
Yes.
And the pi over 6t is equal to 3 pi over 2. So pi cancel out, and 6 move it to the other side. So t is equal to 9. So between 3 and 9 is your number line test on the cosine of pi over 6t. So if you plug in that says 1, so the cosine of pi over 6 is going to give you negative. Does that make sense? Oh, so it's positive. Does that make sense? Now, if I plug in 4, so it'll be 2 pi over 6, that'll be negative. That'll be positive. So between 3 to 9, 3 to 9 is your particle moving left. Pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
But you do need a solve equation. They say right do not evaluate integrations on a given total distance. Oh my god, this is easy. Huh?
Do -2 for the initial position.
No, because you are talking about particle moving. It has nothing to do with initial conditions.
Because it didn't move to that -2 prediction.
It start at -2, but it's still moving left and right based on whatever the volume equation is.
The depth is at 0, and I start right here. I still haven't moved anywhere, even though I'm starting negative to the depth.
That doesn't make sense.
If you start here and haven't moved yet, it doesn't matter the fact that I started at a negative thing. Since I haven't moved, it's still 0. So then when I move here, if I move positive, you don't include the initial value.
Initial value has nothing to do with it.
Yes, I know.
Initial value has nothing to do with, just like
I agree. I just have a bad way of
the
doing it.
ring pipe question that Emily was asking me. Emily is asking me, should I include initial condition? They say how much it flow in between 0 to 5. But how much it flow in has nothing to do with what is already there at very beginning. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with that. Yes, Balin?
You said pi over 6 equal to 10.
It's not on the other.
What am I saying?
That rank question.
Pi over 16 equals pi over 2.
Yeah, and then you divide it by pi on both sides, multiply by 6 on both sides. So it'll be 6 over 2 is 3.
You just randomly set it equals to pi over 2.
No, because that's when cosine equal to 0. Cosine equal to 0 when this parenthesis is equal to pi over 2. Because when that's equal to pi over 2, that's just a trig equation. When that part is equal to pi over 2, the whole thing is equal to 0. Now, that's what's going to happen here, and that's how you solve it mathematically. Now, part B is actually super easy. It was 0 to 6, absolute value v of t dt. And they say did not evaluate, and then that's it. You're done. Point. Money. Ching. Okay, find acceleration at t equal to a particle speed is increasing or decreasing. So we basically plug in 4, right? What is cosine of pi over 6 times 4? What is that? Cosine of 2 pi over 3, which is what? -half, right? What is a of 4? We should take a derivative. Chain rule, don't forget. A of t is equal to v prime of t, which is equal to negative sine of pi over 6t times pi over 6. Is that okay? So it'll be negative sine of pi over 6 times 4 times pi over 6. I have no idea what this is. Sine of 2 pi over 3 is square root 3 over 2 negative, and times pi over 6. So it'll be square root 3 pi over 12. I think I got that. It's negative.
Yeah.
So they're both negative. Are they slowing down? Oh, speeding up. Sorry. Speed up. Because they both negative. So this is negative. This is negative. That's going to give you a negative. Find a partition of t equal to 4. Now, Emily, do I include initial condition here or not?
You do not. Or wait, yes you do, Because at 0, you're at -2, so then at 4, it still includes like the -2.
Yeah, I just say like, just say that your goal is running to the Mormon church and come back, but you're Olympia, right?
Yeah.
But what if you, like Emily, decide to go to Starbucks to get a Starbucks before I get there? So it start at -2 because it's a further away from the Mormon church.
Yes.
So he had including the -2 plus whatever from Olympia to the Mormon church. I don't know if you run to Mormon church or run to fire station.
Run into Windermere.
Oh,
Run that way.
okay.
No Mormon church.
No.
But to the fire station.
Fire station, yeah. So Emily is like, I'm gonna go Starbucks first,
In a way, if you
and I'll run with you guys later.
the negative two.
I can see Emily doing that.
That's
We'll run to the park and we'll like go on the slide and then
Really?
yeah. If we're finished in the summer.
Okay, so this one should including, right? So this is gonna be 0 to 4. Now this one's kind of hard. So cosine of pi over 6t. This one's kind of hard because you need a
negative 2 plus, right?
-2. Yep, you're right. Thank you. So that needed u substitution. Do you guys do u substitution?
Yes.
U equal to pi over 6t. Du is equal to what? Pi over 6 dt. And then it's gonna be -2 plus what is it? 6 over pi. And if I plug in 4 there, it's gonna be 2 pi over 3. If I plug in 0, it's gonna be here. And this one's gonna be cosine of u du. I do u equal to this. Du is equal to pi over 6 dt. And so it'd be 6 over pi du equal to dt. So 6 over pi. What's the integration of cosine of u? Sine of u, right? So sine of u to the 2 pi over 3 to 0. So it'd be -2 plus 6 over pi times, what is sine of 2 pi over 3? Root 3 over 2 minus 0. What?
Yeah, but did you include that?
Huh?
Did you include that?
I changed it about. So this one is going to be 2 pi over 3. And this is 0. You have to do yourself.
Wait, this is kind of weird. I don't know if this is like a coincidence, right? But
Yeah.
if you don't use any bound,
Yeah.
you get the same thing, and then once you get plus c is -2.
Yeah, that's what
Is that like
yeah.
a coincidence or?
I thought plus C was like just the initial condition. That's why it's -2.
But I don't know, like if that would always work.
No, you need a -2 plus the distance traveled between 0 to 2 pi over
I'm
3.
saying like even though I didn't use any boundaries, so I had plus c was -2.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that's like coincidence.
It should be fine because that plus 2 is.
Wait. If you distribute it, yeah, through
3
Yeah, I
root
did
3
the
square over minus
minus
2.
Yeah, what I did.
You got the same answer?
Yeah.
I did the.
It doesn't seem like it doesn't make sense.
I took the. What you did was you take the integral to the substitution with no bounds, and then so you had your thing. You just plugged in the 4, right?
Yeah, you could plug in 4 to get.
They can plug in 4 at the end. And I
Oh, but then it makes sense. Plug in. That obviously would give you the same. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think that's fine.
So yeah, we are.
Also, you don't always change this. You always change
Yeah,
the
if you
boundaries.
do- if you
You always
do-
change the boundaries.
Okay, so tomorrow's test, you are more likely to be that particular question not gonna be without calculator, but in case that's without calculator, that you still able to do because you cannot prepare that question without calculator with calculator. This happened to be a very great question. For the last 20 years, I only see one question like this without calculator, and I post it here. So that means I exhaust this question. That means I cannot give you a question without calculator. So most of the time it's gonna be with calculator. So the calculator, I'm gonna add additional parts. So it's gonna be as much as all those parts. And you just have to know how to use calculator on all the things, in all the situations here. Now FTC, you're not gonna get a question like part C like that, where you have to know that it's 3 and square root 2. That's very, very difficult to analyzing, but nonetheless, it's okay. They are gonna give you some surprise questions, so you are gonna have to handle the surprise questions. I like this question because I'll probably ask you another question like this, because this is just area under the curve, initial condition, but this is on the part of FRQ. You are gonna get a net rate questions. Now, pay attention to the net rate. Pay attention, because part B, part A, no, not this question. Actually, I would say part B of this question can change. Part B of this question can change. So how will they change? They only need to change one word for you to change this. They say amount of water to change the rate of the amount of water coming in. So what's the difference if I were to say rate here?
That'd be the prime.
Yeah, that'll be the
Yeah.
prime. Actually, that'll be the prime for the, yes, that'll be prime. So sometimes they say amount of water is the displacement, and if you increasing, decreasing, that becomes a rate. But if I say rate of amount of water is increasing and decreasing, then all the bets off, because you're gonna say the rate is the whatever function they give it to me. For example, this is RT, and then it's increasing, decreasing. You're gonna take a derivative, so it's gonna be R prime of 3 rather than R of 3.
Wait, the rate of the amount of water and the pipe increasing. That'll be the number.
Yeah, so that'll be, but you have to consider in and out too.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's it. I mean, I don't really need to give you more question. The problem is I want to give you a minimum amount of question and just see that if you can handle it. The best thing is knowing the concept rather than knowing a lot of questions. You can practice lots of questions as not a problem, like you practice lots of questions, but the problem is, do you understand each question you do clearly? Those people does well in SAT. I'm gonna point out there are two type of people who do well SAT. One type is they drill like thousands questions, and that's gonna get you about 740, 750. And there are people that just go in to understand the concept that's on SAT, and every time they look at question, they just think about, oh, that's the concept I was talking about, and they're able to execute them, and they do well on the SAT, and they end up getting 780. Why that is, though, is it because they prefer to understand the concept rather than prefer to understand how to do thousands questions. That is always a bad way to approach. Unfortunately, some people need that. Unfortunately. But the technicality is you don't have to understand thousands questions. You just need to know how to apply your 100 concept. The concept on SAT is same thing. Similar triangle in geometry. Similar triangle, 45, 45, 90, 30, 60, 90, Pythagorean identity, isosceles, equilateral, alternative interior angle, corresponding angle. That's all geometry. SOHCAHTOA, that's geometry, right? So all those things, if you know, your geometry is done. Algebra, do you know your linear equation? Do you know what the x-intercept mean? Do you know what the y-intercept mean? Do you know what a slope mean? But has to be internal word problem they give it to you. Do you know that if you have two lines that are parallel each other and have two different y-intercept, that means no solutions? You have same slope, same y-intercept, that means infinite solution. If you have different slope, that means one solution. Do you know your discriminant? Do you know your axis symmetry and quadratic? Do you know how to use quadratic formula? The same concept just over and over again. Yeah, you are gonna get two questions that you don't know. I even don't know. I take a practice test. Sometimes I'm lucky, I get 800. Sometimes I'm not lucky, I'm gonna get 780. Because that last question, I have no freaking clue. I don't really give a shit about those. Because I'm getting 780, I'm good. Harvard's gonna look at me with 780. It's not gonna have a big difference between 780 and 790 or 800. However, it's gonna look at you if you have 780. Now you just all competing about extracurricular. So your goal is to get to 780 and you're done. You don't need to fight for the 800. 800 does not give you additional benefits. That's the idea. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I cannot score 800. Half of the time, I'm gonna get 780, and the other half of the time, I'm gonna get lucky to get 800. But that last few questions, sometimes I don't know. You ask me, oh. Again, on AP exam, you're not trying to get perfect score. You're trying to get a 5, which is 70 out of 108. Very doable. It's less than 70%. So that means if you average your score in 70% on my test, you should get a 5. If your average is a 55 like Ethan, 62%, you should get a 4. But Ethan, I think Ethan have very good potential to get a 5 because he's clutching at the right time now. He's clutching at the right time. Just don't go down. Go up.
No, yeah.
Alan's going down. I would have so much hope for Alan, but
Shoot, whatever happened to that one test like before winter break?
it's right here.
Did it
I'm
ever
still
get
being
graded?
graded.
I want to see what I got. I want to see what I got like wrong.
Y'all help me grade it.
I've been thinking